now joining us, does a tremendous job covering the Philadelphia Eagles for PhiladelphiaEagles.com, and that's Dave Spadaro. Dave, thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm doing fine.
Well, thanks for coming on. So you were just interviewing Jim Schwartz. What did the new Eagles defensive coordinator have to say?
He doesn't say a whole lot. He really doesn't want to commit to having any sort of, this player's doing that, or you sit there and you go, hey, Jim, how's everybody coming along? And he goes, well, it's only training camp, and you take it for what it's worth, and it's valuable, but we got a lot more to get to, and we have to get a lot better. So I think he's pleased so far, but he also understands that there's a lot more that this defense has to accomplish.
I like this Eagles defense. I think it's the strength of this football team. The front four, I believe, is going to be exceptional. Going to the 4-3, I like. The cornerbacks are a concern to me. The depth at linebacker is a concern to me. But when I evaluate the career of Jim Schwartz, I think his personality is perfect for this town and for the Philadelphia Eagles. A concern I may have may be the discipline, but generally overall, I think Eagle fans are going to love Jim Schwartz, Dave.
Yeah, I think they already do. I mean, I think they've kind of gotten to know him a little bit, and he's not going to throw roses around. You ask him about Jordan Hicks and how Jordan's coming along, calling the defense. Now, listen, the kid's in his second year. His first year as the starting middle linebacker full time at the 4-3. You kind of expect, well, the coach is going to say some nice things, and instead he says, well, he's a smart guy, and that's his job, and he should be able to do it. It's not that difficult. I'm not going to give him any gold stars for that. And you kind of like that. It's very refreshing, and that's the message to the players. I mean, hey, it's about getting better every day, and I think everybody recognizes that this defense has to be really good for the Eagles to be in contention in the NFC East.
What did you see out of the corners today and so far in camp? Because that's a big need for this football team, are the corners.
Yeah, I think they battle. I think they're going to compete more than at times some of them did last year. And I don't think there's a superstar, certainly, but I think that they will be physical. I think they'll be helped a lot if the defensive line is what we think it is and puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback. I think Jalen Mills, who had a very nice interception today, can play, will play, and to have a seventh-round draft pick, you look at it and go, you got something there. I mean, that's what's going to help the Eagles get back to the top of the NFC, because they're going to have to hit on draft picks in not only this past draft, but in years to come, having no first-round pick next year, having no second-round pick the year after. So they have to hit on draft picks. So having Mills, at least to this point, give you the indication that he's got some game. How good can he be? We don't know. But he's got some game, and there's some skills to work with there, no question about it. That's really encouraging.
And also what's encouraging are the safeties as well. I know Jenkins suffered a hamstring injury today, but you pair Jenkins with McLeod, that looks like it should be a pretty lethal duo in the Eagles secondary.
Yeah, and Jim loves that duo, and he's spoken so highly of them since the Eagles signed Rodney McLeod. And I mean, we all know that the Eagles have really struggled at safety since Brian Dawkins left after the 2008 season. So if they can find a really reliable twosome back there, I think it'll make a big difference in coverage. Remember, the Eagles gave up 36 touchdown passes last year, the worst in franchise history. They were a sieve in the pass game. Having two quality safeties who can cover, who can fit in the run game, really will make a big difference.
Dave Spadaro joins us at Gelb Show as we're here broadcasting today from Buffalo Wild Wings, 3465 US 1 South in Princeton and West Windsor. Dave, what I want to also ask you, I mentioned that Jenkins had a little bit of a hamstring injury. Peters went down with a quad injury today. Just what have you been hearing on those two players? What did the coaches have to say after practice about them?
Yeah, no real update. Both players walked off the field. I don't think it's anything long-term, but you certainly want to make sure that they're okay, particularly in the case of Jason Peters, who had a quad injury last year that sidelined him. So you definitely want to make sure that they're okay before they go back on the field. But there really has been no update officially since that time. So Doug meets the media tomorrow, and we'll find out the status of those two. But I will say that there didn't seem to be any sort of remarkable amount of concern about it.
So we talk about Jenkins and Peters, and we talk a lot about that defense, and there's a lot of high expectations for that defense. The offense, I'm not too confident. I'm not too positive about that offense going into the season. But the one issue, actually the one positive thing that I do like about this offense really is the offensive line. I know we haven't seen any of Brandon Brooks so far, but that should be a nice positive acquisition for the Eagles. How do you think this Eagles offensive line is shaping up, and what's the latest on Brooks?
Yeah, Brooks is getting closer to getting on the field. I kind of expect him to be back out there today. He was not. Hopefully he'll come out tomorrow or Saturday. And if he is as good as advertised and the offensive line plays as well as the Eagles think it can play, it will make a big difference. I mean, to me, look, I remember back to the Andy Reid days. You win with a good offensive line. You win with a good scheme, a quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over. Back then, the Eagles had good tight ends. They have good tight ends now. Back then, the Eagles didn't necessarily have great wide receivers. They certainly don't have great wide receivers right now. They had good running backs, but it remains to be seen here with these running backs. So I think the offense really hinges upon the success of the offensive line, and I think they can be good. Again, Jason Peters has to stay healthy. They've got to make sure that left guard, they have a good solution there. Alan Barber is the incumbent, and he has been the starter throughout camp and has played well. And then Brandon Brooks is the way the Eagles talk about him and have talked about him. He's a kind of a land-moving right guard who's going to make right tackle Lane Johnson a lot better. He's going to make Jason Kelce a lot better. He's going to add a lot of bulk to the offensive line. He's a really good athlete. And so, if he plays up to expectations, this line should be a lot better. The guards were a weakness last year, particularly at the right guard position, and Brandon Brooks could be a huge upgrade.
Have you been impressed with the wide receivers? Because I don't think there's a lot of talent with those wide receivers. We'll see what Aguilar could do in your number 2. I do like Matthews, but after Matthews, there's a lot of competition at that position, and I think some guys are going to need to step up. So who's been impressing you so far at wide receiver?
Well, I mean, I guess when you say there's not a lot of talent, I think there's the distinction that I would make is that there's not what you would call a number 1 wide receiver here. I mean, I think that's fair to say. But I think that there are potentially a lot of players who can be productive. And Ruben Randall, for example, has been productive in his career, not to the level of, what the Giants wanted. They want somebody. He was not consistent in New York. He knows what he's playing for this year. He's playing for a big contract opportunity next year. So I've seen Ruben play really well. I think Nelson has played better. He's been more consistent catching the football. Jordan Matthews has played well. They're getting the ball to Josh Huff in a lot of ways. Jet sweeps, shallow crosses, the screen game, where you can take advantage of what Josh does well, and that's run with the football. We see how well he runs it on kickoffs. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Eagles use these receivers. The question I have is who's going over the top? Who's going down the field and taking the lid off the defense? I don't know if Chris Givens can be that player, but I don't think there's a star here. But I think if the Eagles scheme it right, they can really spread it around, take advantage of some good matchups, get the ball to the tight end, get the ball to Darren Sproles out in space, and kind of, in a very workmanlike fashion, score points, minimize the turnovers, play well in the red zone, and then see what happens.
We're talking to Dave Spadaro. Dave, a few more questions right before we let you run. Let's get to the quarterback position. And it's funny that we've waited this long in the interview to talk about the quarterbacks, but I was intrigued by some of the stuff at the defense and then also the wide receivers and the running back position. But with the quarterback, the plan is to play Sam Bradford. With Sam Bradford, I'm not a big Sam Bradford fan. I will say that. His injury concerns are a big issue for this team. But the plan is to wait on Carson Wentz and play Bradford right now. 1, do you like that plan? 2, with Sam Bradford, where's your confidence level at with him? Will he have a career year this year?
First, the plan. When you watch Carson Wentz, and today he was particularly fantastic. But he has it all. I mean, he's got everything that you want in a quarterback, and he has a chance to be really, really, really good. But he's not there yet, and so I don't think it hurts him at all to sit for a year and learn and get better and then see what happens next year. As far as Sam goes, I mean, you watch him at practice and he's terrific. Now he's wearing a red jersey, so that helps. The defense doesn't touch the quarterback. But I will say this, let's go back to earlier in the conversation. If the offensive line is going to be a strength for this football team, then there's every reason to believe that Sam can have a productive year. Because if you have time to throw the football in this league, the way the rules are for sure, you're going to get guys open. And so I think Sam has shown a lot of confidence. He's physically way, way, way ahead of where he was last year. And so, I mean, he had those 2 weeks where he left, and since he's come back, I'll be honest with you, he's been more gregarious. He's been more confident. He really likes the coaching staff. He likes the scheme a lot. So it's been a really productive spring and summer for Sam Bradford since he returned, and I think that's a positive. Will he have a career year? I mean, he hasn't. There's not much to beat here. I think last year may have been numbers-wise his best season, and I think he's got a chance to have a good year for an offense that's going to be interesting to watch. I don't think has a lot of explosive weapons, but I think that the coaching staff will be able to scheme to move the football and score points.
I think the most difficult part that's going to be with this Eagles team this year, and it may not be a bad thing for the future of this football team, and I know you don't make a move. I know Howie Roseman doesn't make a move, and also the head coach, Doug Peterson, really listening to the fans, because and the fans are important, but if you listen to the fans, with every move you make, you'll end up being a fan. The toughest part, I think, is how passionate these Eagles fans are interacting with them on a daily basis. Every mistake that Sam Bradford makes this year, they're going to be calling and imploring to see the future that is Carson Wentz. How difficult is that going to be to handle with the Eagles coaching staff, their management, and even Sam Bradford throughout this entire season?
Well, I think it's nothing. I mean, look, I get the whole picture. Sam understands it. The Eagles get it. I think it's kind of the way it is anyway, right? I mean, Eagles fans are vocal fans, and if you make mistakes, you are going to hear from them. And that's just part of the business. Sam has to tune that out. The Eagles have to tune that out and find ways for him to be successful. So the NFL is a tough league, and it's unforgiving, and everybody I think part of Sam's comfort level this year is that he understands his fan base now. You can hear all the stories about the fans, and until you experience them and the scrutiny and the passion and the emotion of the fans, until you experience that, it's really hard to understand it. I mean, you can't understand. So, to me, having a head coach who's been a quarterback in the league and who was a quarterback in Philadelphia and who was exactly in Sam's situation to a large degree, I think that's all very helpful to Sam Bradford. So, I mean, yeah, he's going to have to tune it out, but it's life in the big leagues, man. If he's not doing well and there's no Carson Wentz and the Eagles are losing, the fans aren't going to be quiet no matter what. They're going to still voice their displeasure, and that's just reality in Philadelphia. And by the way, it's reality in most NFL cities. Teams want to win. There's great passion and pride and emotion on game days, and Eagles fans are not going to hide their feelings.
I know it's early in the Doug Peterson era, but already, just from the early impressions that you see, how big of a difference is it on the players from going to Chip to Doug? Because you hear a lot what the players have been saying as of late, and clearly it wasn't as good as you thought originally with the Chip Kelly era, and that message did get old. But how much different is it from going to Chip, who was my way or the highway, to Doug Peterson, who's classified more as a player coach?
Yeah, it's a totally huge difference. I mean, everything from the daily routine is different. The way the message is delivered is different. The camaraderie on the team, I feel, is different. And I think you've seen players talk about that and how they feel the chemistry is so much more aligned in the right direction this year. And, look, I mean, the X's and O's are different. I mean, everything's different. That doesn't mean it's better because we haven't seen how the team does on the field, but it is extremely different than Chip Kelly's time here in Philadelphia.
We talked to Vince Papale the other day, and Vince loves the hire of Doug Peterson. But a point that I brought up to Vince is you always hear that term, players coach, for Doug Peterson. How does he decipher being a players coach and not a doormat that the players just walk all over? And how do you think he'll handle that, being a players coach but not being someone the players take advantage of?
Well, I mean, the practices that they're running is not player coaches. I mean, they're physical. Today was nearly a 3-hour practice. There have been live periods hitting. It's been nasty. It's been great. The way you do it is you win, and I mean, that's the chore that Doug has. That's the chore that every coach has. If you win, the players ultimately like you, love you, and if they have success, they will ball for you. If you don't, it's very tough to win them back. And that's what happened to Chip, in my opinion. The Eagles, those first year and a half, you win, everybody drinks their smoothies. Everybody's happy with the score times. Everybody likes the up-tempo. And then you lose, and you score 6 points a game or 13 points a game, and you lead the league in giveaways, and all of a sudden the players are being criticized, and all of a sudden the players aren't as fond of the scheme and aren't as fond of the smoothies. So the way you win over the players is to win, and that's the name of the game for every coach.
Last one with Dave Spadaro, who joins us. So our poll question today is number 5 will always love you, but do you love number 5? A, answer that question, and then B, what did you have to think about McNabb's comments?
Yeah, love Donovan. In fact, he was at practice in the afternoon here today, and so I think Donovan is entitled to his opinion. I don't agree with his opinion. I think it's a short-sighted and not very educated opinion from Donovan, just from the sense that he hasn't been around here to see the plan in place and understand the mechanics and how it works. But hey, that's Donovan's opinion. Donovan went through it. Donovan says that you as a young quarterback, you don't benefit from being on the sidelines, and that's his belief, and he lived it. So he wanted to be on the field, and that's fine. I disagree with it, and but Donovan's certainly entitled to his opinion.
Dave, excellent stuff. We appreciate the time today. Thanks so much. Let's do it again real soon.
Anytime, guys. Thanks so much for having me.